What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Wednesday afternoon. No public Packers practice today, although we did hear from Mike McCarthy and his coordinators, along with various assistant coaches throughout the afternoon. But now it's that time of day where I jump on Facebook and talk to you fine folks, Packers fans all over the country and indeed the world. Talk to you about your Green Bay Packers, see what's on your mind, answer any questions you might have regarding the green and gold. Muhammad jumping in, and what's up, man? How are you? California checking in. What's up, Marcos? Brad, hello. Thanks for checking in. Tammy, hello. Thanks for jumping on. So yeah, the Packers, like I said, off today. No public practices until they take on the Raiders on Friday. McCarthy clearly not giving up anything in regards to play time for any of his players, including his starting quarterback. But all signs are pointing to Aaron Rodgers sitting out Friday, which would be a major break from past experience when it comes to the third preseason game. McCarthy has generally, throughout his tenure, used that third preseason game to play, his starters well into the, beginning of the second half. Clearly, Rodgers has played less and less throughout the years, but this would be a major break from the norm to not have Rodgers play at all. But that's how it's looking. So we'll have to stay tuned. McCarthy said they would have that decision made probably sometime tomorrow, most likely after he meets with the media, conveniently enough. So stay tuned for that, for all of you who maybe are interested in the outcome on Friday night's game for various reasons, having to do with Vegas maybe. You never know. Zach asked the question. I'm getting quite a few of them. Friday, yes. Friday is indeed my last day with Packers News. I will be endeavoring to bring Packers content to the internet via another outlet, which details will be announced soon. In the meantime, yes, I am leaving Packers News. This is my last week. Friday is my last day. It's been a great ride. I absolutely enjoyed working with everybody. It was just time to move on. And it's 100% my call. They were more than gracious to give me the chance these last few years, and it's been a great time. But yeah, Friday's the end. Did Favre get this treatment for preseason games? Not to this extent. Favre pretty much played that third preseason game. As far as I can remember, he would play that third preseason game at least for a quarter. The fourth preseason game he usually sat out, but that's been the norm for Rodgers as well. This, like I said, this would be a bit of a break for McCarthy and a big difference. Tom, what's up? How are you, man? Why are you making me cry? Hey, I'll still be around. I'll still be online. Make sure you like my page on Facebook, Nagler Packers. Just search Nagler Packers and you'll find it. You'll keep up to date on everything I'm doing. I'll still be doing Facebook chats. I'll just be doing them someplace else. So make sure you're checking that out. I'm very flattered with all the questions about my future, but I'd like to keep this on the team, on the Packers, if I could. Thanks, guys. Let's see what else you guys got. Can you name the top 5 wideouts? Your thoughts? Good question, Mike. Well, I think obviously you've got Adams and Cobb. I think those are your givens, and I believe at this point Geronimo Allison is probably your given at number 3. 4 and 5, that's where things get interesting. And at this point, I would probably say I'd go Kumaro and Valdez-Scantling with the ANSI just outside. But that's just sitting here Wednesday afternoon, off the cuff, thinking about it. There are, cases to be made for everybody, and I understand it's going to be a tough choice, especially when special teams are considered. Getting guys like St. Brown and Jamon Moore and Trevor Davis, obviously, most of his value comes on special teams. It's going to be a hard cut down, but right now those would be my top 5, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to get Jamon Moore and Equiminius St. Brown onto the practice squad at this point. Now, maybe Friday night rolls around and those guys ball out and we have a whole different conversation heading into next week. But right now, that's kind of how I see it playing out. Jamon Moore, the next James Jones? Riley, your guess is as good as mine, but that's an apt comparison considering both of them had major issues catching the football earlier in their career. We all know James Jones went on to lead the league in touchdown receptions at one point later on. So I think I understand the frustrations with Moore. He has been frustrated with it. Aaron Rodgers has spoken about it. No doubt that he needs to turn it around. But I tend to agree with what Rodgers said earlier this week in his press availability when he said it just takes one play. That kid just needs to haul in one big play, make one play, and then things should start to roll for him. He's been a bit of a victim of bad luck, a bit of a victim of his own kind of undoing. He just needs to make a play or two, and I think he'll start to get things pointed in the right direction. Any chance Gutekunst picks up offensive line help after the cuts? It's a possibility, however, it's pretty unlikely. When you get to that point, you go from that cut from 90 to 53. The street does get flooded with guys, but most of the people who can play are probably still on rosters. Now that doesn't mean there might not be some help out there, but I would think they're going to stick with what they've got. Again, you never know who's going to shake loose. Maybe there's some kind of salary cap implication in another team around the league that makes a guy come free. But more often than not, they'll probably stick with what they've got. Somebody asking about Cincinnati's former safety. He signed with the Vikings this morning, so no, the Packers will not be going after him. And in all honesty, that made perfect sense. He was always going to go to either Minnesota or Oakland because those are the two defensive staffs where in the schemes that he's familiar with. Where was the Pack on this? Dennis not running his scheme and not having any history with them. Like I just said, he was always going to sign with either Zimmer or Gunter out in Oakland. That was kind of a foregone conclusion. It was just a matter of who made the call first, and it happened to be Zimmer. He's got no history in the scheme that the Packers are running. He's got no connections to any of the staff. Not really a surprise. Could you see Rodgers having a year like when he didn't have Jordy Nelson? If you're talking about when we saw the beginning of all the what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers type articles, could he? Sure. Anything's possible, but I would be very surprised. I think he's going to ball out this year. I think Jimmy Graham, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, some of the young guys, I think you throw in the guys in the backfield, I think there's a lot of weapons there, and Rodgers is going to cut it up this year. Is the new helmet rule a reason for Josh Jones not hitting as much? That's a very good possibility. When we saw him early on in his rookie season, he was blowing people up left and right, and that's obviously gone away big time. Maybe that's playing a part in the lack of physicality, although we seem to have seen it. We seem to have seen it disappear prior to that. Second half of last year, he wasn't very physical either. But absolutely, I wouldn't rule that out as a contributing factor. Michael with the first Khalil Mack question of the day. Simply Khalil Mack question mark? I doubt it. How much money do the Vikings have? It doesn't really matter, Dennis. They signed him to a 1-year minimum deal, so it doesn't really take a whole lot. Has Rollins done anything to salvage his job at safety? I think so, Wes. I think he's not looked great on perimeter at the corner position, but I think he's looked better inside and at safety. Now, will that get him on the roster? That I'm not 100% sure on, but he has definitely looked better in those spots than he has at traditional corner. Put him closer to the line and watch how well Jones plays. Yeah, Eric, I would agree for the most part, although there have been instances where he's been overwhelmed a little bit. I just see him thinking a little bit too much and not kind of reacting and letting himself flow inside the defense. Now, that might be a product of it's a new scheme. It's his first year in it. But I agree. His game is better suited towards the line, at the line, taking on tight ends, knifing into the backfield, helping in the run game. He's definitely much better suited to that type of game than the kind of free safety stuff we saw him playing towards the end of last year. Would you rather have Reed or Mack? Definitely Reed, simply because he'd be a hell of a lot cheaper. Although that said, I don't think the Packers are going to make that move either. No more Nagler. I will still be talking Packers. Like I said, make sure you follow me on my page on Facebook, my other not Packers news page. Nagler Packers. Just search Nagler Packers. You'll find it. You'll find everything I'm going to be doing. How is our defense? Asks Anthony. Work in progress. Funnily enough, Mike Pettin was asked kind of that same question earlier today. We haven't seen a whole lot of scheme, obviously, in the preseason yet. We've seen a lot of it at practice. I think, there are going to be some bumps in the road, so to speak, early on, especially with some of the young players. I think the defense will continue to improve throughout the season. I think veteran quarterbacks are going to continue to give them a little bit of trouble early on. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a much improved unit over last year. And I know the idea is not that hard a task, I know. But you'll definitely see improvement this season. How's King's shoulder doing, Nick? Well enough for him to play. Seems to be no lingering effects, so we can't really know until he gets into a real game situation where he's asked to play the entire way and see how it responds. But right now, he seems fine. He's at practice. He's participating. He's in team stuff. And that's all you can ask at this point. Why are the Packers holding on to Trevor Davis? Because it's not time to cut anybody yet. Why would you cut him just to cut him? Maybe he heals up and comes back from his hamstring and tears it up. You're not going to gain anything by cutting him right now. But, a couple weeks to go. We'll see. Are we going to make any rooms for a running back? I would really doubt it. All the guys are getting healthy, and those are the guys they like. If they wanted to go get a running back, they probably would have done so by now. Who's your sleeper to make the 53? Robert Tonyan, the tight end, who's probably running number 4 right now. If he were to make it, it would probably mean cutting Kendricks, which I think is a outside possibility. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible. Did the Vikings sign Mack? No. Hello from Seattle. What's up, James? Clay in negotiations. Yes, Richard, he is. They've spoken. He and his representatives have spoken to the Packers. I don't think anything happens there until Rodgers gets done, though. I mean, they're completely enveloped with the Rodgers conversation. Everything else is on the back burner at the moment. What's up, Australia? Leslie, thanks for checking in. In Columbus, Indiana. We need a safety or a pass rusher, says Alan. Well, you're going to have to take with what you got on the roster right now. Maybe they look at safeties if somebody shakes loose, because there is a little bit of depth there on the open market. But anybody who can rush the passer is on a squad right now, and I don't see the Packers making a trade for anybody. Don't discount what you've seen from Reggie Gilbert. He's going to give you something this year, no doubt about it. Does the quarterback who is featured most on Friday win the backup job? I think some of that will depend on how that said quarterback plays, whoever it is. But I do think you're going to see a bit of Kaiser, and I do think this is his chance to kind of take the job. Beagle, where is he? Question mark. Peter, I actually talked about him on the radio this morning. I think there have been a lot of questions about his play, and I think he's been solid. He's exactly what you would expect for a guy coming into his first real offseason. Remember, he missed everything last year. Bit of a redshirt season for him last year. But yeah, I think Beagle is exactly where you would expect him to be at this point. He hasn't exactly torn it up. He hasn't made any highlight reel plays, but he hasn't been a disaster either. People expecting him to come in and be Clay Matthews his rookie year maybe were a bit too overzealous, but I think he's about where he should be. Now, I'm sure they would like to see him improve and continue to develop, but I don't think you could sit there and say Vince Beagle has been anything you didn't expect or you shouldn't have expected. Hello from Wisconsin. What's up, Jim? Someone from Wisconsin checking in. Unbelievable. Thanks, Adam. It's very nice of you to say. Has Hundley made a trade market for himself thus far in preseason? Mitchell, that's a really good question. I think he has a little bit. I don't think anyone's ever going to give up maybe kind of the lofty goals about, around what was talked about when he was initially drafted, and people had the idea that the Packers maybe could, flip him for a decent premium pick. But I do think he's shown enough promise, and he built on what he did last year. No one's ever going to confuse him for, the second coming of Joe Montana, but he's definitely shown improvement, and he's shown an ability to run the offense and make plays in the league, and basically what you would want from an NFL quarterback. And we all know kind of the dire straits that the backup situations are around the league. So, yeah, I think there's a possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but there's a possibility someone offers a low round pick. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump, but thanks so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They do go very fast. I'll be back tomorrow, barring any breaking news overnight. In the meantime, make sure you're checking PackersNews.com, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.